Submarines moored in Manila Bay in the Philippines are given the order, submarines and aircraft will wage unrestricted warfare. Less than 8 hours later, Japanese bombers were on their way to begin their assault on the Philippines. By the end of the following day, 18 U.S. submarines were at sea on war patrol. Before the month was out, Manila fell, and the submarines of the Asiatic Fleet evacuated for Surabaya, Java, and Darwin, Australia. U.S. forces held out on Corregidor until May. These submarines abandoned Java by the end of February 1942 and headed for Fremantle, the first arriving on March 3rd. Later that month, the first submarine was shifted here to Albany, along with Captain Jimmy Fife to command submarine operations from here. Albany would serve as an important base for U.S. submariners throughout the war, particularly in submarine repair and upkeep. Albany made a significant contribution on June 20th, 1942, when tests of the beleaguered Mark 14 torpedo were made in Frenchman Bay, which confirmed the torpedo had been running deep and thus missing their intended targets. This drastically contributed to the outstanding success of the U.S. submarine force in the Pacific, a force which accounted for less than 2% of the U.S. Navy, but sank 55% of all Japanese ships sunk during the war. It punched well above its weight, as the report of the United States Strategic Bombing Survey later said. The war against shipping was perhaps the most decisive single factor in the collapse of the Japanese economy and logistics supported Japanese military and naval power. This same force also suffered the highest casualty rate of any service in the U.S. military during the war, losing 52 submarines and 3,505 lives. Yet submarines was an all-volunteer force then and remains so today. It certainly takes a special breed to be a submariner, as my wife Coolio will readily attest to, both in 1941 and today in 2011. Submarines are an elite service, rarely discussed as such, since it is also a silent one. Each man that serves successfully on them must bring a set of unique traits, each valuable in its own right, but truly rare in combination. I won't pretend to have all the answers, but as I see them, the traits are intelligence, independence, endurance, high tolerance for discomfort, and courage. Submarining is technically taxing, relies on a small crew working around the clock in close quarters, and can be very dangerous if you don't respect the deep ocean environment, much less your adversary. I can assure you that the submariners that I serve with today share all of these traits with their World War II predecessors. I'm proud to be a U.S. submariner for many reasons, but the principal ones are the elite sailors that I work alongside today and the tremendous legacy that I inherited from the men who served on submarines during World War II, men such as Andy Anderson and William Polaris. Today's U.S. submariners are of the same caliber. They are all the sons and daughters of America, and they are all truly exceptional for their courage and service, just as those who sailed from Australia in World War II. I know America can sleep more soundly, and our potential adversaries less so, because our submarines are out there 24/7, 365, where they can influence events when called upon. In 1945, Gene Fluckey, commanding USS Barb, successfully employed rockets against shore targets, a first for submarine warfare and a harbinger of the role submarines played recently in Operation Odyssey Dawn, where U.S. submarines launched over 100 Tomahawk missiles to help establish a UN-endorsed no-fly zone. Thanks to men like Gene Fluckey, the sailors on those submarines were able to call upon the legacy handed down from their World War II predecessors. Another legacy left by our World War II predecessors was a lasting, enduring partnership with Australia. Those U.S. submarines which fled the Japanese advance in those dark early days of the war found refuge here, and that was no small offering on the part of the Australians, for it most assuredly brought the fight to their shores. Despite the risk, Australians greeted the Americans with open arms and ready support. An alliance was forged in this hour of need, and it has grown since. Nowhere is this more readily apparent than in the relationship between our submarine forces. I know of no stronger military-to-military bond or a more fruitful partnership. We have numerous permanent exchange positions between our two countries. We regularly go to sea on each other's submarines. We attend each other's submarine command and warfare courses. In a truly unique relationship, we share a combat system and a torpedo, where we share the costs in money, in intellect, and in effort to make both of these the best in the world and to give them to our sailors. This phenomenal relationship started in cities like Albany, where U.S. submariners were welcomed into the community and given all the help that could be given. As mentioned before by some people here, some of the sailors liked it so much, they stayed, and they further strengthened this bond and mutual respect between our two nations. I imagine, based on my short time here, and certainly my travels around this weekend, that some of the draw was the climate and the natural beauty of this area, as we can all look out upon today. But I know it was most readily the mateship extended by all Australians, yesterday and today. I know at least 2 of them found mates for life here in Australia, mates who we are honored to have here amongst us today. Mrs. Polaris and Mrs. Anderson, thank you for not only being here today, but to your generation of Australians who gave such ready mateship to my predecessors in their time of need. Your gift has not and will not be forgotten. The contribution of those U.S. submariners who sailed the war during World War II is well captured by one of that war's greatest leaders, Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz. And I quote, "When I assumed command of the Pacific Fleet in 31 December 1941, our submarines were already operating against the enemy, the only units of the fleet that could come to grips with the Japanese for months to come. It was to the submarine force that I looked to carry the load until our great industrial activity could produce the weapons we so sorely needed to carry the war to the enemy. It is to the everlasting honor and glory of our submarine personnel that they never failed us in our days of peril. That is the legacy of the men whose deeds and sacrifice we are honoring today."